Good afternoon, everybody. This is Michael Slater from Speed Networking Solutions. And for some of you, good morning. It's still 11:30. I'm in Chicago, so I know for my fellow Chicagoans, it is still morning and getting ready for lunch. So we're going to keep this to about 30 minutes so everyone can get on with their day and grab lunch because we don't like anybody to go hungry. And being that we are Speed Networking, we like to try and keep it short and to the point. I'd like to begin with just introducing who I am. I'm Michael Slater. I'm the founder of Speed Networking Solutions, LLC. Believe it or not, I've been doing speed networking and hosting speed networking events for nearly 15 years. And make no mistake that once I saw the famous speed dating model as a good business student from Indiana University, the Kelley School of Business, I said, why can't we do this for the business world and transfer that same platform to many great organizations, alumni associations, chambers, etc., around the country, and the rest is history. We've since formulated a business providing solutions to all types of organizations to helping them effectively connect people together in a multitude of ways. But the point of our conversation today will be about the 5 critical components to hosting a successful speed networking event. And that's not meaning using our services. That might be how you may be hosting it. And what I hope to accomplish today is to share with you all the information that we have taken away from so many clients and events and et cetera. Basically, I'm sharing trade secrets is what will be happening today of what's worked really well and what hasn't worked so well in the events that I've hosted. And then that number is over 500 events over throughout the country for all these different types of groups. Essentially, the other thing I'm trying to do is be of a resource to fellow event planners so they can bounce ideas off of us and we can help them with their events regardless of using our services. So this is our way of kind of giving back to the event planning community to help everyone further their networking for their respective organizations. So let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to first transfer over to a brief history of speed networking. And I know we have lots of different people on the phone. By the way, we have people from corporations, from associations, from alumni groups, trade shows and conference planners. We have international people. I'd like to welcome a few folks I saw registered from Australia and from Europe. So thank you all for joining the call. And for those of you who may miss a couple points, this call is going to be recorded and we will post it up so you can come back to it if necessary. So let's begin. What is speed networking? And to me, it's all about keeping it simple. Speed networking essentially is about effectively connecting people and initiating, I put that in bold and in quotes, initiating new relationships. Speed networking is not about, you're going to come in and wham, bam, you're going to close a piece of business. Or you're going to find your next job right away. Someone would say you're hired. It's about initiating that relationships. One of the things that we see when I talk to all the clients from alumni groups to chambers of trade shows is one of the number one things they always talk about for their respective groups is networking. Networking is a big part of their missions. And when I go to the trade shows, networking is all over the marketing, and then it traditionally turns out to be social engagements, coffee breaks. Sometimes there's some other roundtable mixers, things like that. But now we're seeing a significant increase in groups hosting speed networking events. People often ask me how many people are doing it. And I say, I can't keep track. It's growing exponentially. So simply Google speed networking at events, as I did below, and there's over 15 million pages that come up. And if you simply search through them, you'll see that you're not alone. Every alumni association, every chamber, not everybody, but a significant amount seem to be hosting speed networking events in a variety of different fashions, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Corporations for peer-to-peer, for corporate hosting events for their clients, things of that nature are all taking place. And essentially, why are they doing it? Well, as we joke around here, because it works. Speed networking works because what I have taken away from all the clients is that people thrive, well, not everybody, but a significant amount of people thrive off of structure, and that someone is engaging them to connect. They're taking away that awkwardness of walking into a big room and trying to connect with people. So that's the quick history, because I want to make sure we get enough time for the top 5 critical tips that I've taken away. I'm going to share with you one by one so we can make sure we hit that deadline of 30 minutes. With that said, as we go through this presentation, if you have questions, there are 2 things you can do. There is, you can actually send us a message through GoToMeeting. We will try to get to some questions. We may not have time to do so, to be respectful of everyone's time. Alternatively, if you want to write down this email address, events@speednetworking.com. Again, events@speednetworking.com. We will be checking those emails. And in case we can't get to your question today, myself or Nate Jones, who's on our team, one of our senior event planners, will answer those questions for you. So we're happy to do that because we realize we may not be able to answer everyone's questions, and a lot of times they're unique, so we're happy to help. So the first critical step is defining the event. All too often clients say, well, we want to do a speed networking event. I said, great. Well, what do you want to accomplish with it? And then there's this look of, I can't believe you just asked that question, because we don't have an answer to that. So we go down the process of helping them define the event. So with your own respective events, define what it is you want to do. And there is no right or wrong way to go about it. So for example, and these are just examples that these are probably the most common events, themes that we do for speed networking, and we define it with the client, peer-to-peer, often for corporate environments, for internal speed networking events, also for associations who might represent a certain group, lawyers, accountants, healthcare, etc. Peer-to-peer essentially is knowledge sharing. Team building. Team building is very popular also amongst corporations. You may partner the marketing department with the sales department, the compliance with the sales, and there's all different types of reasons why groups may get together, but you need to define that component of it, because what do you want the outcome to be? So it's not as simple as just to put people in a room anymore and say, good luck, speed networking, go ahead for 5 minutes. Now you need to take it to the next level and define it more each way. Buyer-seller events, those can get quite complicated. I know for clients that host buyer-seller events, there's a lot of politics in there, there's a lot of different groups, there's a lot of different expectations. So the more you understand who the audience is going to be and define that event, the better the outcome will be. And then general networking events, more common for alumni associations and chambers of commerce, where you have a real mix of people that represent a whole different variety of industries. They may have different responsibilities within their organizations as well. So the question is, what do you want to happen amongst everybody? How do you want that objective to work out? Also, what should participants expect? Define that as well. Number of meetings, how long per meeting? Do they choose who they meet, or how are they assigned? Let them know ahead of time. Perhaps for some clients, and even some people who don't use our services that we talk to just to bounce ideas, they do have definitions how they do assign people, especially for like peer-to-peer and team building. There is a rhyme or reason to why they are connecting certain people. At the end of the day, the more we define, we have a much more informed participant, which will set the stage for a highly successful event. We want to start having the participants' mind trained for the expectations of the event, so therefore when the day is the event, they are well equipped and ready to go and focused on what the objective of the event is. Number 2, who, when, and where? Who's going to be invited? One of the things I often ask clients is, who's going to be attending this? And sometimes they'll say, well, a variety of people. I said, well, okay, let's talk about that, because excuse me, this is all about how we're going to match people together, or how you may want to match people together. Perfect example, mentees and mentors. We have a great client, Georgetown University. They've been fantastic. We've been working with them for 4 years, and we talk about this. And in the beginning, it was anybody and everybody that attends, and then we have now focused those mentors and the mentees down to about 7 or 8 key criteria that the mentees would represent, and they went out and found mentors that represent those key areas. For example, government affairs, legal, things that Georgetown being in Washington, D.C., Georgetown being very close with the politics of downtown. A lot of students get involved with that. But we defined it, so therefore the students knew what type of mentors were coming, and therefore the right mentees would register for it who were interested in those categories. Buyer, seller, peers, and coworkers, who's invited. If it's a coworker event, who in the sales department? You may want to say it might be for managerial level and up. Again, there is no right or wrong answer to it because there's so many different ways to do it. Just define it, so therefore you know exactly how this is going to play out when you start to host the event. When is also a very popular question I receive for conferences and trade shows. And on the next slide, we'll talk about for those who are doing more independent events for alumni associations, chambers, where traditionally it's often a breakfast or an evening mixer. But in the conferences and trade shows that often go 2 up to 5 day long conferences, the recommendation that I always provide to clients is host at the beginning of the conference. And the reason's pretty straightforward, so therefore they can leverage and reconnect with those people they met. As we know, we run these major, huge conferences. People come from all over the country, all over the world, often don't know anybody. And what a better way to put them in an environment and make them comfortable by hosting something in the beginning. We've seen events where they're replacing some of the welcome reception happy hours with, for example, maybe a 5 o'clock till 6:30 speed networking event, and then open up into a cocktail mixer and things like that, just to get people integrated, welcome them, have them mix with other people that probably don't know each other, so therefore they don't have to, quote unquote, wander the halls aimlessly and they're always checking their iPhones. We want them engaged to make sure they enjoy the conference throughout it and make connections and build upon that. Because don't forget, if they make 10 connections in the beginning, when they see somebody, they may be talking to 2 people. Now they're comfortable walking up to them, introducing to them. It's like viral networking within your own conference. Traditionally, I suggest scheduling about a 60 to 90-minute speed networking event at the beginning of the conference. It just always depends on where you have time in that conference to do that. I do not recommend doing it at the back end of the conference. Don'ts. To the best that you can, understanding if you have a conference or trade show, scheduling is often a very difficult component. But if you can, avoid scheduling during competing continuing education credits, classes or sessions, or a key speaker event. If you do run into those situations, consider a breakfast, an early breakfast, a rise and shine, 7:30 till 8:30 speed networking event. Grab a cup of coffee, and we're going to do some speed networking sessions while you have that cup of coffee so you can make the 9 o'clock session. So it's another great way of doing that. And believe it or not, people are up. We have several clients that do that, and I don't know how it happens, but they get themselves together super fast, and they look like $1 million, and they got a lot of energy. Most of them do. There are a few people that straggle, but after a cup of coffee, they're in great shape. Generally, I recommend avoid the lunch hour and evening speed networking events. It is not always the case. We do, again, have some clients that lunch does work for them. It's, again, knowing your audience. The lunch hour is often a time for people to kind of rejuvenate, grab some lunch, talk to some people at one of the round tables, and debrief for a few minutes, check their phones, email, etc. So for some groups it works really well, but for the majority I recommend avoiding it. Evening for conferences often is utilized for more social engagements. Additionally, there's so many dinners scheduled and other meetings, and then other folks that just want to go back and relax, so you lose out a lot of people that would have otherwise shown up. For those who are more in associations, chambers of commerce, or networking organizations. I've always found Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are great times to host events, breakfast or evenings, evening being right after the work hour. Start at 5:30 p.m. It's always best if you offer a light appetizer or something so they can get some food in their belly, so they're alert and ready to go after a long day of work. And on the flip side, breakfast, obviously coffee and maybe some pastries. Don't try and host them during holiday speed networking events. We've seen that done before. They usually turn out to not work out too well. Lunch hours, again, people are struggling during lunch hour to find the time. They're often late. They're caught up with something, and you lose out on people. And timing conflicts. Timing conflicts would be perhaps if you're in Chicago and the Cubs are going to the World Series. Now, I know everybody on the phone is laughing because the reality of the Cubs going to the World Series is there's probably not much of a chance. However, be mindful of what's going on in your local community and try and avoid those to the best you can, additionally to your own industry events. Try and find a date that's going to work out really well. Final part of this is, where is the event happening? One of the things I've always recommended is if you can find a private room, so if you're in a large conference or association, if you can use one of the hotel rooms that's close to maybe the trade show or et cetera, leverage that, because we want to create a little more of an intimate ambiance for the participants to enjoy that one-on-one conversation instead of having all the distractions around them. Seek out carpeted floors. Believe it or not, that it's loud. If you've done speed networking events, you've participated in speed networking events, you know it can get loud. And the very funny thing is, if we can all think back to Seinfeld episodes of the famous Close Talker episode, we don't want to have that situation. We know when it gets too loud in a room, people are basically right on top of each other, trying to understand each other. And unfortunately, it takes away from the event because they don't understand. They can't hear 50% of what the other person's saying. And finally, do make sure there's elbow room. I usually like to say in a layout, give them about 2 feet in between each other for a room layout. Therefore, they're comfortable, and I realize there's sometimes limitations to the room, but you can adjust that by how many people you want into the room. Personally, I've gotten feedback that if it's overly crowded in the room from the surveys we've done, and we've done thousands of them, if it's overly crowded, everyone's on top of each other, the event loses some of the efficiency and effectiveness, and that's probably one of our #1 complaints if it's too packed. With that said, try and avoid tiled floors, and especially high ceilings with tiled floors. It's so loud in there, it's hard to hear your own self-talk, and overcrowding. Part 3, critical step, is event logistics. A lot of people don't really think about this so often until it's too late. And the clients would know that I like to keep it simple. I'm a believer in the KISS philosophy. Keep it simple. And in that, utilize only things you really, really need. And in this picture, you can see this is our general setup, our basic setup. It's an 18-inch, 6-foot table with only 4 chairs on per tables for 2 groups. And within the room, all I suggest is you need a podium and mic. A screen and timer for some groups, they like that. Personally, I think it's a distraction because people are looking up at the clock and not focused on the person having the conversation. It's up to the moderator and the facilitator to bring the people through the process and let them know. If you need chimes or bells or others, make sure you schedule that ahead of time and make sure you bring it with you. Registration process. Every group has a different one. I often come across groups using Cvent, using Eventbrite, Meetup, etc. And just make sure you get the information you need that would be transferred onto a name tag. And at the very minimum would be if you can get a title and company. And if there's something else that I like to suggest, I have knowledge in, or I'm an expert in, you put that on the name tag. It's another way to break some ice in an event. And then some other items that people really forget about quite often is water. They make joke of they make fun of me because I talk about water so much, but people get dehydrated after 3 or 4 rounds of speed networking. Their mouths get dry, they start to sweat, and if they are hydrated, they keep energized throughout the event. So we typically will put either water on the tables or on the outside of the room and leave plenty of it there, and we are constantly encouraging people to get water. And depending on the environment, when we do events in Scottsdale, Arizona, for example, we're bringing water to people all the time because they are just dehydrating too quickly. Pens and paper, lighting. Lighting, this is not speed dating, so it's okay to increase the lighting. We don't have to lower the lighting. The better the lighting, I find just people are more alert, up, ready to go. Air temperature, when you walk in that room, make sure it's a bit chilly, because when they do the speed networking after the first round or two, it gets hot. There's a lot of energy. I'm not a scientist. I can't explain why, but that air temperature goes up several degrees when you're hosting a speed networking event. Marketing. Marketing is a critical element to every event, because marketing is what the message is that you're conveying to the participants from the get-go. This is what is going to sculpt the event, make sure they understand what the objective is. This is an event we're doing with Cranes and the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, and it is for their Small Business Week, so it's the targeted group is small business owners in the Chicagoland area, and we want to convey the message, how this is going to work. So we have a little message, how this is going to work, the advantages of the speed networking event. Let them know. Take all the guesswork out. Don't leave them to interpret. Let them know. So therefore, again, when they show up to the event, they've read this, they've seen it, and they say, okay, I get it, let's go. I'm excited. And now they have the expectations. And these can change depending on the event. We can't see it on this one, but I do have pictures and video. Pictures and video are very important for those who are a little unsure what to expect. A great video showing professionals connecting in a great mood and happy is a great way to convey that message in the imagery. We do get lots of click-throughs on video, and it doesn't need to be long. It's a 30-second video on it, and for whatever your last conference or session was of speed networking, would be an ideal video to post. The last critical step is a facilitator. The facilitator, in many cases, can make or break a great event. Because we never know what's going to fully happen. You might lose out on some people. There could be a big storm coming in. I know that we had a very large client that had a corporate meeting, and 50 people got stuck in the East Coast during one of those terrible storms in January, and we lost 25–30% of our population. Ironically, we got a call from them who were stranded in New York, and they said, well, we're doing speed networking in the United Terminal amongst the 50 of us. We got a big chuckle out of it. But sometimes those things happen, and the facilitator needs to control that environment and bring the event to life and say, oh my goodness, we're so sorry that we're going to lose out on 50 people, but we have another 150 great people in the room ready to go. And engage a control and ensure that people, keep your eyes on the people and ensure they're engaged with each other. The other thing we like to do is educate a little bit before we kick off every event. Take 5 minutes, find 5 great tips that you would like to share with everybody to make the most of the event. Now, one thing that we do on the side that I want to come back that I didn't mention before, when people are checking in for the conference, we do give them a cheat sheet, and that cheat sheet is how the event is going to work, some tips on how to make the most of the event, and everybody gets one. So again, we want to, from all the way from beginning of marketing, we want to make sure they are familiar with what the event is going to be and what the outcome is going to be. And go with the flow. Make sure, keep your eyes on the people, make sure they're engaged, make sure they're having a good time and making those connections, and help jump in if you need to help facilitate. Somebody might say to you, oh my goodness, I'm not meeting the right people. Engage with them. Who are you looking to meet? Maybe you have the registration list with them, and continue to help connect them to other individuals. So those are really the 5 critical elements that I've come through over the years to make great events for the clients. Now, realizing in a 30-minute presentation, I can't go through all of the key details, but I just wanted to share with everybody the key steps that we have found amongst our clients of a variety. And again, in summary, there is no 2 events that are the same. And everyone has a unique need to them, to their own events. And use these 5 tips, and we'll post it online. Send us a message. And down here we have our email address as well and phone number. You can talk to myself or to Nate, and we'll be happy to share with you kind of some additional thoughts, or if you have a unique situation, we'll be happy to talk with you more about it. For those that are interested in taking the speed networking event to a different level and incorporating advanced matching technologies to allow participants to get even better connections, that's where we come in, along with facilitation, the organization, and this is the only plug I'll make about ourselves, is that this is where we do our best work in working with clients who have unique needs, large audiences, more demanding matching parameters. That's where we can come in and save a tremendous amount of administrative time, keep it a lot of fun. We've worked with Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, major trade associations, some of the most prestigious alumni associations around the country, and the list goes on and on and on. We've been doing this for so many years. So that's what I'd like to share with you today. We're going to send out a survey. Feel free, as this is our first time doing a webinar for speed networking, share with us your comments or other things you'd like us to discuss, and we'll be happy to do that and brand another one or schedule another one in the upcoming months. On behalf of everybody, we're right at that 12 o'clock, or in my case, 12 o'clock marker, the 30 minutes. On behalf of everyone joining, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you soon, and we hope to see your speed networking events, and keep doing it. And best of luck, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.